Hey guys, so for today, I'm going to be showing you guys how I go about doing my crop top burst fades. So right off the bat with this client, I notice his crown. I notice that it's sitting a little heavy, a little flat, and that's the first thing that I want to attack. I want to see how long the hair is sitting here, how dense it's sitting. This is going to give me my initial guide for how I go about making a decision for the length of the hair on top. Okay guys, so first things first, I want you to completely saturate the hair, right? Because when we saturate the hair, it's gonna act as glue, right? So this means it's gonna make it a lot easier for us to do our sections. So just go ahead and completely saturate the hair. Okay guys, so once the hair is completely saturated, then you're gonna go ahead and apply a radial section, right? So a radial section is going to begin near the crown of the head, and the way we're going to find that reference point is going to be where the head starts to round off, right? So I placed my comb on top of the head right there, and I was able to determine that this is where I wanted to make my section. So after this, I make a sectioning the top from the side panels of the head, and I use the recession point there as my reference point. So this is a good way to determine on either sides, to remain symmetrical, to determine where you want to place your sections. Okay guys, so at this point of the haircut, you need to make a decision on how short or how long you're going to leave the cut. So taking that first diagonal section that you see me taking here, right? Pay attention to the hair that I cut first. So there you can clearly see that there's a small point, right there by the tip of my index finger. There was a small point. Now that was my reference guide to choose for the rest of the hair, because this is the shortest point closer to the side of my client's head. Meaning that if I follow this guide, right, I start working in that visual short to long style that I'm trying to achieve. So with my found guide, I'm going to show you guys, or I'm going to tell you guys how I'm positioning my hand before I cut, what I start to do when I get closer to the round of the head, and so on and so forth. So first thing right here that I'm doing is, since I'm on a flat surface of the head, I want to elevate the hair that I'm going to cut to 90 degrees. So 90 degrees, you guys should know this, it means straight off the head, right? Cool. So straight off the head, elevating, that's going to reduce weight, okay? Anytime you over direct up or down, left and right, you're retaining some type of weight from the hair that you're over directing. So I only start to over direct, and you'll notice it here, once I get closer to the rounds of my client's head. So a good and easy way to notice if you're about to cut on a round surface is simply by placing the comb on that area and seeing where it starts to round off. Okay, so here you can understand what I was talking about when I mean over directing on the round surface. On a round surface, I typically want to build more of a weight line to give the hair a nice structure, right? If I take too much weight out of the rounded areas, it's going to look like we bit into it too much, and it's not going to be a visually pleasing silhouette. Now check this out guys, as we get closer to the crown of the head, I'm still using very diagonal sections, right? I don't want you guys to start getting vertical with your sections, because I mean, if you start horizontal and end vertically, and I mean, you guys can do the math on that, it's not gonna provide the same shape, right, on either side. So here you can see the application of fully over directing to the last section, right, to build that weight line around the crown area to the parietal ridge. Alright guys, so here I just went ahead and I got a section from the middle of the head of this back panel, and I saw my guide and I repeated the same process that I did on the right panel. And then here I'm just checking for the flow. I'm checking for any strong weight lines that I need to take out. But if I don't see anything, if I like the way it's flowing, then I know I'm good to go. So there guys, you can even see how nice, how seamless it looks. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see anything too heavy around the crown area. We don't want to see anything too light around the nape area, right? Because you want to, for this haircut, the purpose is to preserve more length in that back area. Now we're gonna move on to the left panel, right? We're gonna use similar sections that we used on the back on the side, but I want to find a section that's gonna give me a guide for the side panel. So this is why here you can see me trying to find a clear section from the back panel to the side panel, because I still want to use those diagonal sections on the side as well, because the way the haircut's going to sit, it's going to be more of a cropped, right? So everything typically gets pushed forward. So here you can see me using that short to long technique to find my cut. So now we take this all the way through. And again, considering that here we're working with a round surface, I'm going to do a little bit of over direction, not too much. So right there, see my guide. And notice that I never go past my second knuckle. Two reasons. One, I don't want to cut myself, and two, you start to lose tension if you cut past your second knuckle. Now, why is tension important? Tension's important because it's a for sure way to know that you're cutting with symmetry, direction, and flow. So okay guys, so now that we're done with the back and the sides, we're gonna go ahead and work with the top section. So here we have a mohawk guide, right? A direct line that gets a little bit of the left and a little bit of the right. So this is going to be the initial traveling guide. You want to make sure that your guides are about a finger's width. This will help you stay clean. And if you go any bigger than this, you start over directing, right? So typically you want to work directly in one area so that you don't over direct and build weight or take off too much weight off of different sections. Okay, so now we're going to integrate section 1 into section 2. And there you can clearly see a guide, so I make my cut. And with crop tops, usually I go with something of a round shape, right? So to get a round shape, you guys know that you have to go directly off the head, 90 degrees, right? All the way through. So in these sections right here, you'll see me going all the way through, right? What that means, like I said again, going 90 degrees with the hair off the head. Okay, so once I've done my vertical sections, I go into some horizontal sections towards the top, and I start to cross check. So what I'm checking for here is for corners, right? Since this haircut is a crop top and I'm going for a softer look, I don't want something that has edges that are too sharp, right? I want to soften the look just a little bit. Okay guys, after cross-checking, I'm just gonna go back and I'm gonna check a top visual of the hair to see what it looks like, to see if it has the structure that I'm looking for, the length, and the flow. Right there you can see the texture, you know, hasn't been styled yet. But I'm kind of just checking to see how everything is gonna look once the haircut is finished. Okay guys, so now into the fading part, right? We know we're gonna do a burst fade. So we're gonna take the ear as our starting reference point for the initial guideline. Now notice that I'm not going in directly with my trimmers yet or my foil shavers, because I want to make this first initial line very easy, very simple to remove. So there, for the first guide, you see that I have my clippers all the way open, and I'm gonna go about ½ an inch up. Now, before I could continue on to the next step, I did notice there was a lot of weight along the crown area. So I very simply decided to just clear it up with a number 3 guard completely closed. Now, I'm taking this number 3 right up to that weight line that we built when we did our diagonal sections. So right there, I'm being very careful and being very precise on where I place that number 3 guard to remove some of that weight without removing the weight that we intentionally built. Okay, now after we went in with our number 3, I decided to down fade from there, right? So I put on my number 2 all the way closed, and I'm going right below that number 3 guard. Now you might be asking yourself, why didn't you go in with a open 2 guard, right, to kind of match the number 3? So here it's fairly easy to blend it in if you're using the right scoop out technique because it is a bigger guard. But if you notice that it's still too much weight, you can always go in with your texturizing shears and remove some of that darkness. Okay, now after we've applied the number 2 guard, we're gonna take the number 1 guard completely closed, and remember that first initial guideline that we set in, right? We're gonna go about another ½ inch above that guideline. So right there you see me closed, worked my way into the open one to blend that darkness into the number 2 guard. Look how easy, simple this is, guys. Why? Because I'm using the right technique, right? I'm placing the comb of the guard flat against the head and I'm blending it straight up, right? I'm not scooping in, right? And I'm not doing any crazy exaggerated motions to avoid those little mistakes. Now here you can already see how it starts to come together. I haven't detailed yet, I haven't lined up the haircut yet, but you can see how simple it could be to make a blend, have a blend like this using the right technique. Okay, before finishing the fade on the burst, right, I'm gonna go ahead and line up the side posts just to kind of gauge how where I'm at in the fade and what needs more work. This is gonna work as a highlighter, right? It's gonna highlight all the little imperfections that you can see. So right there, you can see how nice that looks right there. The gradiency that we retained is now showing because of the edge up, and that's what you want to see. Okay, now I'm going to move on to completely detailing this haircut. So with my 0.5 guard, right, I'm going to just hover along that in between spot of the no guard and the one closed. So that's going to take it to the more blurry side of this fade, right? Because it looked good before, but now we can make it look, you know, fake, as they tell you sometimes. So detailing using your corners as much as possible to avoid making any minor mistakes that can throw off the fade. Just go ahead and play around with it till you're satisfied. That's usually what I do. And then I move on, right? So here I'm just clearing out this hair because I'm going to go ahead and come in with my trimmers first and then my full shavers. Okay guys, so with my full shavers now, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. I'm not going up too high, I'm not pressing too hard, especially getting closer to the actual fade. But here you can see how it starts to pop. Everything starts to come together as soon as you add that level of skin to the haircut. Now, as I was saying earlier in the video, if you guys did notice that the weight line was still a little bit too heavy, you can always come in with some shears and soften that out. Now, personally, this is my favorite part of the haircut. I love doing the lineups. This is why I love doing burst fades, or I love doing tapers. It's just something so satisfying about this step. But here again, guys, like on the side post, it's gonna highlight how good this blend came out, right? You can see the gradiency come from light to dark, right? Okay guys, so now we're gonna get into the styling part of this haircut. So I'm gonna take my blow dryer here with my nozzle and a brush. I'm gonna go ahead and start from the sides here because I want to start building that structure that's going to hold the top of my hair. So I'm starting from the sides, I'm working my way to the back, and notice I don't really move the blow dryer, right? It's mostly just the brush doing all the work. All right, so here you can see me concentrating that blow dryer to the back, right? Pay attention more so to how I direction the hair with the brush, right? So with the brush, I'm moving all this hot air through the hair. and I'm giving this style some structure. Okay? So I'm starting from the sides into the back. I'm giving it that structure that it needs. And I'm moving the blow dryer parallel to the direction that my brush is moving. Okay, so once we structured the sides and the back, now we're free to move on to the top. So in the top, as you can see here, I'm focusing on the roots, right? I'm getting those roots structured as well first, and then I can move on to kind of more so the ends of the hair, right? Now you can already start to see that structure in the back panel there, kind of square, right? And that's because we layered everything correctly and we build that weight line. Okay, once the hair is in a desired texture, where you think you can mold the hair, add some product, and it'll have good movement, go ahead and start to style the hair, right? So here you can see me checking for movement, checking for structure. I use this white wall a lot to check for structure, right? So to see if my cutting line was right? If I used proper tension, it'll show if you can see that nice structure in the hair, right? So here around the crown area, you can see it's a little bit square, right? It rounds off just a tad bit. And here I'm just playing with it. I'm seeing what looks best. I'm experimenting with the cut, and I'm able to see here how much texture was actually implemented. Okay guys, so this is my final look on the crop top burst fade. If you like this video, if it was helpful to you, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, and if you have any questions on the video, please go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and I'll get back to them as soon as possible. Thanks guys, and I'll see you on the next one.